Hi, my name is Jay Keynes and I'm now acting as your CPA, and I'd like to share with you a couple of good tax tips that you ought to consider, especially if you are taxed as an S corporation. If you are an S corporation and you use your home for business purposes, then you are literally, the business is literally renting space from you, the homeowner. So in this case, you should take a rent expense. The company should literally pay you rent. They get a write-off for rent expense and you recognize rental income. The magic number for what should be charged is what is the amount of rent that you can recognize on your personal return, to which if you took a portion of your mortgage interest and property taxes or your rent expenses and a portion of other utilities and depreciation, that you could shelter down to zero. That's the amount of rent, the magic number that you charge to the business entity. So that's tax tip number one, make sure you're charging rent. If you're a sole proprietorship, then you do what's called the home office deduction. And then unfortunately, many have been led to believe that home deduction is an audit risk. It's not an audit risk. Some 20-odd years ago, the IRS chose to audit 2,000 businesses and determine if the home office was a legit auto or expense write-off. They determined that it was a legit write-off for a business. And so you ought to be taking that if you are a sole proprietorship. The next expense you want to be sure and take into consideration is miles. If you travel miles for your business, some businesses travel a lot of miles. I work with a lot of real estate agents and they travel a lot of miles. Some don't travel so much. The best expense in almost all cases is to take miles versus actual expenses. If you take actual expenses, you get depreciation and then the actual gas and repairs expenses for the vehicle at a percentage, like maybe 25% business use of vehicle or whatever it might be. But if you instead do miles, it's just miles. It is what it is. Miles is the write-off you get. No matter how many travels, how many years you have the vehicle, no matter how much you paid for the vehicle, you get miles year after year after year. So those are two big expenses that we make sure that all owners of businesses have.